Hi everyone, it's Steve from Smart PE. Today we're going to be looking at a smarter way on how we should structure a 9-mark answer, and also we're going to try and develop our knowledge of how to write different assessment objectives, assessment objective 1, 2 and 3 points in our extended question. So just let me explain a few things about how this learning mat is going to work in today's lesson along with this video tutorial. So the first thing you've got in the top left hand corner is the QR code. I would imagine you've scanned that already just to access this video tutorial. That's there for you for as long as you need it. So after the lesson, if you want to listen to this video again, just scan that QR code, it'll bring you straight back to this video tutorial. In the middle box, the sort of grey darker box, is a pupil answer that has been filled out already. The box on the left just underneath the phone is a levelling band criteria, and just underneath that is what I'm going to call the assessment objective box, the one with all the different AO1, AO2, AO3 boxes in, and I'll come back to that in a bit and I'll explain a little bit more about that. On the box on the right is the examiner's commentary box. What will normally happen is that after the exams for PE is completed in the summer, the exam board will release some pupil answers on the website for teachers to look at, and along with the answers there'll be an examiner's commentary which will tell the teachers exactly where pupils have got marks awarded for whatever they've written, really, for different assessment objectives and how many marks they've got. And these are really useful to see what the exam board and what the person who's going to be marking your exam is actually going to be looking for, and you can get some really good sort of tips and hints from what they're looking for. The box just below the examiner's commentary is a top tips on structuring box. If, for example, you get any information on structuring that you think is really important, or how to write an extended question, I'd just like you to pause your video and write that in there, just so you don't forget about that information that might have been hopefully revolutionary to you, but we never know. And then there's a box just in the bottom left hand corner. I'm just going to call that the reflection box. We're going to fill that out right at the end of the video tutorial. Okay, so a few sort of ground rules really in order to get the most out of this video tutorial and learning mat. I'm going to give you a series of different tasks in order to improve your knowledge of how to structure your 9-mark answer and write different assessment objective points. So what I'll do is I'll explain the task to you, and then I'll ask you to pause your video. Once you've paused your video, you'll then work and complete the task that I've asked you to do, and then as soon as you've completed that task, I'd like you to just press play and the video tutorial will then resume, and I'll normally give an answer for what I believe is a correct answer for what the task that I've given you, and that's about it really. So the first thing you're going to need to do just before you do start is you will need 3 different coloured highlighters or pens. Okay, 3 different colour highlighters or pens. If you need to pause your video to get them, just do so and then press play. But apart from that, the first task then, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to look at the assessment objective boxes, the one with all the AO1s, AO2s and AO3s in, and I'd like you to use one of your highlighter colours and colour in all the assessment objective 1 in exactly the same colour. So the assessment objective 1 or AO1 column, colour that all in one colour. Then choose a different colour highlighter and do the same with AO2 column, and then the same with the AO3 column in a different coloured highlighter. Okay, so pause your video now, please. Right, fantastic. Okay, so these are the colours that I'm going to assign to my assessment objective boxes. All right, doesn't matter if they're different, obviously, it's just so that you know what assessment objectives I'm going to be talking about from the pupil answer. Okay, so the next task that I want you to do is I want you to just actually read the exam question and read it really carefully. When you read it, I also want you to highlight a few of the words in the actual question. So the first thing I want you to do is highlight the command word that you can spot, and I want you to really fully understand what that means. And then I want you to highlight the topic word, and then any qualifying answers or qualifying words. Don't forget, that's what you're going to be linking your answer to. Okay, so I want you to highlight the command word, the topic word, and then any qualifying words that you might link your answer to. Okay, press pause now, please. Okay, so the command word that you should have highlighted, and I'm just going to use it on the examiner's commentary, is the word evaluate. And evaluate just means to make a judgment based on strengths and weaknesses, and also suggest alternatives. The topic word that you're looking for is redistribution of blood. Just bear with me, there we go. And the qualifying words is the extent this is going to be used during a hockey match. Okay, so the next thing that I want you to do is hopefully this is going to really start you thinking about how to structure your 9-mark answer, how the person in this pupil response has structured their answer. So what I want you to do is I want you to read the next paragraph of the examiner's commentary, this part here that I've just sort of highlighted. Okay, and then once you've read that, I then want you to mark the first paragraph of the pupil response, just sort of here please. And I want you to try and indicate with your 3 different coloured highlighter pens where the pupil may have achieved assessment objective 1, 2 and assessment objective 3. So pause your video now please. Okay, so hopefully your first paragraph of your pupil response has now been highlighted to show where you think they've achieved their AO1, AO2 and AO3 points. So I'm just going to highlight where I think those have been done as well based on the examiner's commentary. So examiner did say there that a clear definition has been shown of redistribution of blood flow. Apologies, just make sure that is the correct colour. That's yellow for my AO1 point. Rookie mistake. Okay, the AO2 point as well is going to be here because this is where the candidate shows that they are applying their knowledge. They're showing that in a hockey match the digestive system will experience vasoconstriction. And then the AO3 part is the final part of the paragraph. So this is the part that shows that they are giving an advantage. Right, that is one of the things you need to do when you're evaluating, give an advantage or a disadvantage. They're then given an advantage that this might cause. And again, they're linking that again to hockey, which is in the qualifying words in the actual exam question. Okay, so the next task that I'd like you to do is, again, it's very similar to the other one. I'd like you to read this next paragraph of the examiner's commentary, just here. And then I'd then like you to mark the next paragraph of the pupil response. So that will take you down to around about here. Okay, so read the examiner's commentary first and then read the pupil response and highlight where you think they've achieved their AO1, 2 or 3 marks. So pause your video now please. So it looks like the pupil or the candidate in this response has actually structured their answer a little bit differently. So they have given an AO1 point by defining vasoconstriction. Okay, that for me, that here is just one AO1 point. And then they then go on to give a second AO1 point by defining vasodilation. So that's 2 AO1 points there for me. The candidate then develops this point even further, applies their knowledge to the context of the game by then, I'd say, highlighting this area here, saying about working when running for the ball. And then another point about an evaluative point or an AO3 point is that the candidate then goes on to say about the importance of why this is required. Right, so they're talking about why the muscles would need this, and again, this is always related to parts of the body or specific parts of the game, such as jogging back into position within hockey, which is again part of the qualifying words in the question. Okay, so we're hopefully getting through this video tutorial quite well here and it's making sense. So the next task again is going to be very similar. I'd like to read the next part of the examiner's commentary, which is this part here, about the third and the fourth or final paragraph of the pupil response. And I'd then like you to mark the remaining section of the pupil response, please. So pause your video now, please. Okay, so the examiner's commentary is a little bit more vague here, and hopefully because you've done the other couple of tasks, this is giving you a bit of a chance to understand where they might have picked up their assessment objective marks and why. So assessment objective 2 marks were, so assessment objective 2 marks where the candidate has really applied their knowledge and again applied it and linked it to the qualifying word within the question in order to achieve an assessment objective 2 mark. They've then gone on to evaluate further by, possibly you could argue, suggesting an alternative reason or making a judgment again. And again, I'd say this one here is 1 AO3 mark. They've then also given a final paragraph which makes a concluding judgment, and it's not just put in there as a token gesture. They have made an evaluative point. Okay, they've summed up what they're saying and they've made a really good valid point. And also they've not necessarily repeated anything they've said. They've hopefully then made a few more points and key terms such as oxygen debt in order to give it another AO3 point. Okay, so hopefully then you've marked and highlighted where the pupil has achieved different assessment objectives within their answer. And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to read the final part of the examiner's response, which is this paragraph here. And then what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to give this answer a mark out of 9 and just write it anywhere under pupil response. What you will need to do is you will need to look at the level banding criteria, which is this box here in the top left hand corner of the screen. Okay, and I'll just delete that from you there so you can see that. So give this pupil response a mark out of 9 and write that somewhere on the pupil response, please. So press pause whenever you're ready. Okay, so the mark that I give this, and I'll be quite confident really in giving this, I would give it a 9 out of 9 for this. I think it's a fantastic answer, and if you look at the levelling criteria over here, I think it really does show and highlight all of this section here that they're demonstrating accurate knowledge and understanding of AO1 marks. They can apply it well to the question throughout, and they do reach valid and well argued reasons and conclusions. Okay, so I just want to talk a little bit about the structure of this particular question or particular response from this pupil and how they've written their AO1, AO2 or AO3 points, because they're a little bit kind of all over the place, and that doesn't matter at all. Okay, you might have been told to write them in certain ways, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't necessarily mean you copy it. It's just how you would depend or you would prefer to write them. Now if you look at the assessment objective box, you can see this part here called indicative content. So out of your pupil response, if you write a lot of assessment objective 1 marks, let's say you write 10 really good knowledgeable facts about the actual topic in the question, you can only get a maximum of 3 marks. All right, you've got to show balanced arguments, so you've got to the examiners will allocate a maximum of 3 marks to each of the assessment objectives. So you want to try and write 3 assessment objective 1 points, 3 assessment objective 2 points, and 3 assessment objective 3 points. Now again, how you structure that is up to you. I quite often tell my pupils to possibly, if you look at the assessment objective box now, I usually tell them to write an AO1 comment, then an AO2, then an AO3, and go in kind of this direction. Okay, this direction on their first paragraph. So they write an AO1, an AO2, an AO3. And then in their next paragraph, they do the same thing, an AO1 point, an AO2, and an AO3. And their third paragraph, exactly the same thing, they structure it that way. And then they always then finish with an evaluative conclusion. All right, almost writing one too many AO3 points, because if you get one of the AO3 points wrong in, let's say, your second, third, or first paragraph, you've then got that then as a bit of a backup. All right. Another way to look at it is you could, if you wanted to, you could write in a completely different order. You could go, right, I'm going to look at the topic and I'm going to look at the content on this question, and I'm going to try and write as many AO1 points as I possibly can. And I'm going to write 3, 4, 5 AO1 points in my first paragraph. Then my next paragraph, I'm going to see if I can apply anything I know about the command word, the topic word, to the actual linking word within the question, and try and write 3 AO2 points. And then I'm going to then write 3 AO3 points in my final paragraph before giving my final evaluative conclusion. Again, that is completely up to you. You can do a mix and match like this pupil did in their particular answer. Still got 9 marks. Okay, but it's a nice way to think about how you might want to structure or make sure you're ticking off getting enough assessment objective points. Okay, so what I'd like you to do for your final task of this page of the learning map is I'd like you to fill out the top tips and structures box in the bottom right hand corner, and I'd also then, after you've done that, I'd like you to fill out what do you know now that you didn't know at the start of the lesson box, the reflection box. Hopefully then when your teacher's looking around, they can be checking what you're writing and hopefully getting a little bit of confidence that you've made some progress in this lesson. So pause your video now. Okay, just to give a little bit of a structuring thing that I think is really important is the first one is AO2 points. When you apply, try and put it into context with the linking words in the actual exam question, and always give specific examples. Sometimes they ask for, in this question, a hockey match, sometimes they ask for it in a games match, sometimes they don't ask for any particular sport, but you must name that sport. Really important. Okay, next thing I think is really important is AO3 is quite a tricky thing to do, but I am looking to identify any strengths and weaknesses, or explain any strengths and weaknesses. Also could say why something is really important. My AO2 point that I've put, why is that so important to the linking word in the exam question? All right, and I might also want to suggest an alternative reason. All right, don't forget it does say for suggesting alternatives in the actual command word. And finally, I'm going to make sure I was giving a evaluative conclusion. All right, it's a good way to just make sure that if you've made an error in one of your AO3 points, that could be a way that you then get at least one AO3 point in your answer. Again, really important if you want to be getting more than 3 out of 9. Okay, so the next thing is hopefully on the back of your sheet or on another A3 sheet, you've got this question, and obviously in the bottom right hand corner is the answers. All right, they are an example of some of the answers that you can have. Please don't try and read them before you answer the question in too much detail. Like I said, it is an example of the answers. There is a comment that you can also accept any other suitable answers. So you're never going to get it word for word perfect. Obviously not. You're not psychic. You're not going to be able to do that. But you are able to suggest alternative ideas. Okay. So what I'd like you to do is use hopefully the knowledge you've gained from the previous page on the learning mat to then have a go at answering this particular question. I always try to tell my pupils that it's not necessarily a test this, so you can do it with an open book, a textbook, to give you some of the answers. For me, this is all about how you are going to structure your answer and getting better at developing that. It's not necessarily about testing yourself on your knowledge yet on your particular topic that you're doing. Okay, well hopefully this has been quite helpful. If you want to leave any feedback in the actual video link section of YouTube, that'd be really helpful. And best of luck in your exam in the summer.